At first, Alex didn't notice anything unusual. Life felt normal, predictable, almost routine. People came and went, conversations happened, days passed without leaving much behind. But slowly, something began to change in a way that was so subtle it was easy to miss. It started with awareness. Whenever he entered a room, he felt as if someone noticed him immediately, not in an obvious way, not staring, but a quiet shift in attention. Psychology explains that when someone starts to like you, their mind becomes tuned to your presence before their emotions are fully conscious of it. He began catching Sophie looking at him when she thought he wasn't paying attention. The moment their eyes met, she would look away, not embarrassed, but thoughtful, as if she had been pulled out of a private moment. These glances happened often enough to feel intentional, yet subtle enough to remain deniable. The human brain does this naturally. Attention follows attraction long before words are involved. Eye contact becomes brief but frequent, controlled but emotionally charged. As days passed, Alex noticed how conversations with Sophie felt different from others. She listened more closely, not interrupting, not drifting away. She remembered things he said casually, things even he had forgotten mentioning. A comment about his favorite drink, a random story from his childhood, a small opinion shared without importance. When she brought these details up later, it created a quiet sense of connection. Psychology shows that when someone likes you, your details become emotionally weighted in their mind. Her body language told its own story. Whenever Alex leaned forward, Sophie did the same without realizing it. When he laughed, she smiled a moment later, matching his energy. Her body naturally turned toward him even in group settings. These movements were not planned. They were automatic. Mirroring behavior is one of the strongest unconscious signals of attraction, revealing emotional alignment before conscious intent. The touches were never dramatic. They didn't demand attention. A brief brush of hands while exchanging something, standing just a little closer than necessary. Gentle nudge during laughter, each moment alone could be dismissed. But together they formed a pattern. Touch is the body's way of testing emotional safety. When someone likes you, they seek closeness without risking rejection. Alex also noticed subtle emotional shifts when other people entered the picture. When someone else caught his attention, Sophie's expression changed slightly, her smile softened, she became quieter for a moment. Then more engaged, pulling his focus back naturally. It wasn't jealousy in an obvious sense, it was instinctive. Attraction triggers protective emotions even when a person tries to stay neutral. Their messages began lasting longer. Conversations that could have ended didn't. There was always another question, another thought, another shared moment. Sophie didn't rush away, she lingered. She asked questions that created emotional depth rather than surface interaction. What made you feel that way? What do you think about that? These weren't idle words. They were emotional invitations. Alex noticed how Sophie responded to his moods. When he seemed tired, she softened. When he was excited, she matched his energy. Emotional mirroring happens when someone unconsciously syncs their internal state with another person's feelings. This kind of alignment builds connection quietly, without effort or intention. Time passed, and Sophie began appearing in Alex's life more frequently, but never in a way that felt forced. She was simply there, nearby, available. Attraction rarely chases aggressively, it positions itself close and waits. The consistency of her presence became impossible to ignore. Sometimes Sophie teased him lightly, testing reactions without crossing boundaries. When Alex responded positively, she relaxed, smiled more, leaned in closer. Testing reactions is a psychological safety check. It allows someone to measure emotional openness without revealing their own vulnerability. What made everything clear wasn't one moment, but repetition. These behaviors didn't happen once. They happened again and again, across different situations and moods. Psychology teaches that attraction is revealed through patterns, not events. Anyone can show interest once. Very few can sustain it unconsciously over time. Alex realized something important. When someone starts to like you, they don't suddenly change, they adjust, their attention sharpens, their behavior aligns. Their presence becomes intentional without them realizing it. Feelings show themselves long before words ever do, and that's the truth most people miss. Attraction rarely announces itself. It whispers. It hides in glances, pauses, proximity, memory, consistency, and emotional alignment. If you learn to observe these small signs, you never have to guess, because real feelings always reveal themselves through behavior. As Alex became more aware, he stopped questioning whether he was imagining things. The signals were too consistent, too natural to be coincidence. Sophie's presence had a certain steadiness to it. She didn't demand attention, yet she never disappeared. When days passed without seeing each other, she would find a reason to reconnect, never obvious, never forced. A simple message, a casual question, a shared memory brought up without explanation. Psychology explains that when someone likes you, they don't cling, but they also don't detach. They maintain a quiet connection. Alex noticed how Sophie reacted to distance. When he became less available, she didn't chase him aggressively, but her warmth increased when they did interact. Her responses became slightly quicker, her tone more engaged. This is another hidden signal people rarely recognize. Attraction often reveals itself not through pursuit, but through increased emotional presence. When opportunities appear, the brain compensates for distance by deepening connection. There were moments when Alex deliberately pulled back just to observe. When he spoke less, Sophie spoke more. When he became quiet, she asked questions. Not invasive ones, gentle ones. The kind that opened doors rather than pushed them. This wasn't strategy. It was instinct. When someone likes you, silence feels like a gap they want to fill, not because they fear it, but because they value connection. He began noticing how Sophie's mood subtly depended on their interactions. When conversations went well, she seemed lighter, more relaxed. When plans didn't align, she became quieter, more inward. Emotional investment often shows through emotional responsiveness. Psychology tells us that indifference is emotionally flat. But attraction creates fluctuation. Feelings rise and fall with proximity. Alex also observed how Sophie spoke about him to others. Not directly, not dramatically, but with a softness that carried meaning. She mentioned him casually, yet often. She highlighted his strengths without exaggeration. She defended him subtly when conversations turned critical. People don't protect what they don't care about. Even small acts of verbal support reveal emotional alignment. There were moments of shared silence that felt unusually comfortable, sitting together without speaking, walking without filling the space with words. Sophie never rushed to escape these moments. Comfort in silence is one of the strongest signs of emotional safety. And emotional safety is the foundation of attraction. The nervous system relaxes around people we feel drawn to. Alex noticed how Sophie's body responded before her words did. Her posture softened around him. Her gestures became slower, more open. Her breathing changed slightly when conversations deepened. These microsignals are controlled by the subconscious. The body reacts honestly even when the mind remains guarded. Sometimes Sophie would share personal stories, but not all at once. She revealed pieces gradually, testing trust, gauging response. This gradual vulnerability is another hidden indicator. When someone likes you, they don't overshare, they layer intimacy slowly, ensuring emotional safety on both sides. Alex also realized that Sophie remembered not just facts about him, but emotional moments. She remembered how he reacted to things, what made him uncomfortable, what made him excited. Emotional memory is stronger than factual memory. It shows presence, not just attention. There were moments when Sophie looked at him as if she wanted to say something, then didn't. A pause, a breath held slightly longer than normal. Those moments spoke louder than words. Psychology explains that when feelings grow stronger than comfort allows, people hesitate not because they don't care, but because they care deeply. Alex began understanding that attraction isn't about perfection. Sophie noticed his flaws, but they didn't distance her. If anything, they humanized him. She teased him lightly about them, never cruelly. Acceptance mixed with playfulness is a powerful sign of emotional interest. Over time, Alex realized something important. Sophie wasn't trying to impress him constantly, she was being herself. Attraction that is forced tries to perform. Attraction that is genuine tries to connect. Her authenticity around him revealed trust, and trust rarely exists without emotional interest. What stood out most was consistency across time. Weeks passed, situations changed, yet her behavior remained aligned. Attraction that fades quickly fluctuates wildly. Attraction that grows quietly stabilizes. Sophie's signals didn't spike and disappear, they settled. Alex understood then that hidden psychology signals are rarely dramatic, they don't shout. They repeat, they align, they persist. They appear in presence, memory, emotional responsiveness, and subtle adjustments made without awareness. He realized that if someone starts to like you, they don't suddenly change who they are. They simply make space for you within who they already are, and that space becomes visible in ways that words never fully capture. As weeks turned into months, Alex became even more aware of the patterns that Sophie displayed. It wasn't just about glances or small touches anymore. It was about how her presence seemed to adapt seamlessly around him. If he was excited, she mirrored that energy. If he was quiet, she slowed her pace, matching his rhythm. This emotional synchronization was subtle but unmistakable. Psychology calls this affective attunement, and it is one of the strongest indicators that someone is growing attached emotionally, even without saying a single word. He noticed that Sophie remembered things that had never seemed important at the moment. A joke he made once in passing. A casual remark about a book or a song. She would bring it up later as if it were significant all along. These repeated acts of attention created an invisible thread connecting them, one that strengthened with every interaction. Alex realized that it wasn't the content of these memories, it was the act of remembering itself. When someone likes you, your world becomes meaningful in ways others cannot perceive. Physical proximity continued to tell the story. Sophie didn't sit too close, but never too far either. Her presence hovered in that perfect balance, noticeable but not imposing. When Alex moved, she adjusted her position without thinking, subtly keeping him within her personal sphere. These tiny adjustments, repeated over time, became unmistakable. The body knows attraction before the brain fully processes it. These micro-movements, almost imperceptible to anyone else, shouted the truth to him quietly. There were moments when Alex would deliberately observe her, curious about her patterns. He noticed how her tone subtly changed depending on the situation. With him, her voice softened, warmed, and became more playful. On others, it was normal but lacked that special inflection. It was as if her voice itself was reserving a private channel just for him. Linguistic psychologists note that people unconsciously modulate tone around those they care for, sometimes without realizing it. These shifts are part of the hidden language of attraction. Even in silence, Sophie spoke volumes. There were long walks together where neither of them said much, yet each felt connected. These comfortable silences were rich with meaning. Alex understood that when someone likes you, presence alone is enough. You don't need words to feel intimacy. Simply being near, simply sharing a moment, can create bonds stronger than conversations ever could. She also began revealing herself in layers. Personal stories came slowly, shared in increments that created trust and gauged his reactions. Each story was a tiny test, a window into her inner world. She measured his empathy, his understanding, his attentiveness. Real emotional interest is never reckless, it grows gradually, ensuring safety for both sides. This careful pacing of vulnerability is a hallmark of genuine attraction. Alex noticed playful teasing had become more consistent. Sophie would lightly challenge him, make small jokes, and watch how he responded. The teasing wasn't meant to embarrass, it was a subtle way to test emotional compatibility. When he laughed or responded positively, she smiled more, relaxed further, leaned in closer. Playful challenges are a psychological method to measure comfort, interest, and connection without overt confession. Her attention extended beyond immediate moments. When Alex mentioned an upcoming event, Sophie would find a reason to be nearby, not through manipulation or control, simply coincidence. that align too perfectly to be random. Attraction doesn't always push, it positions. It moves subtly, weaving into the other person's world without forcing entry. These patterns became undeniable in Alex's mind. Messages between them became a tapestry of subtle cues. Her texts didn't just ask questions, they carried tone, emotional nuance, and attentiveness. She remembered little details, referenced past conversations, and found ways to reconnect. Every reply was carefully calibrated, naturally, to keep the bond alive. Psychology confirms that consistent attention through digital communication is one of the clearest modern signs of attraction. Lex noticed that Sophie's energy subtly adjusted to his moods over time. If he was stressed, she softened, became more patient, more present. If he was joyful, she matched that energy, enhancing it. Emotional mirroring is the subconscious brain's way of fostering connection, building comfort, and deepening attraction. He began to realize that much of what he felt wasn't just coincidence, it was a carefully orchestrated pattern of instinctual signals. Even when he observed moments where she interacted with others, the difference was clear. Her behavior with him was distinct, warmer, more focused, and unconsciously protective. Psychology explains this as selective responsiveness. People instinctively prioritize those they are drawn to. Ionomally, it is subtle, almost invisible, yet powerful. Alex realized he could read the signs once he knew what to look for. Over time, Alex also became aware of micro-expressions, those fleeting facial movements that reveal feelings faster than words. A slight smile, a raised eyebrow, a fleeting moment of hesitation. These micro-moments occurred more frequently with him than with anyone else. When compiled, they told a story far more clearly than any conversation ever could. Real attraction whispers in micro-expressions, not grand gestures. Alex started to see the overall pattern. There was no single moment of confession, no dramatic declaration of feelings. Instead, there was consistency day after day, week after week. Her attention, presence, emotional responsiveness, subtle touches, playful teasing, shared silences, and the micro-adjustments in her body language all pointed to the same undeniable truth. Sophie liked him. It was hidden, silent, subconscious, but real. And through all of it, Alex understood the most important lesson. Attraction rarely shouts, it creeps in slowly, hiding in patterns, gestures, attentiveness, and subtle emotional adjustments. If you watch closely, if you notice the small things repeated consistently, the story is clear. Behavior always reveals what words often hide. Sophie's feelings were never a question. They were a series of actions, repeated and persistent, slowly unraveling the truth for Alex to see. As Alex spent more time with Sophie, he began noticing patterns in how she organized her days around small chances to see him. It wasn't forced or overt, just small coincidences that happened too often to be random. She would suggest casual study sessions, find reasons to sit nearby, or appear where he least expected. These weren't manipulations, they were instinctive ways her subconscious created proximity. Psychology tells us that when someone likes you, their brain will guide them to maintain closeness without them realizing it. Over time, Alex noticed subtle protective behaviors. If someone teased him or said something critical, Sophie would respond just enough to defend him, even gently, without seeming overly involved. She subtly prioritized him in conversations, guided interactions to include him, and ensured he felt acknowledged. Small protective instincts are common in people who feel attachment, and these cues often precede any verbal confession of interest. Digital communication revealed more layers. Sophie's messages weren't merely casual, they carried tone, attention to detail, and small emotional nuances. She would remember what he said weeks ago, referencing it with care. She asked questions that weren't necessary but showed curiosity and attentiveness. Psychology shows that repeated, thoughtful engagement in communication is a strong signal of emotional interest. Alex also became aware of the small micro-expressions that would appear in Sophie's face. A slight smile when he said something funny, a raised eyebrow when he mentioned a challenge, fleeting moments of hesitation that hinted at thoughtfulness. These micro-expressions, lasting only seconds, communicated far more than words could. They were like tiny windows into her subconscious feelings, invisible to everyone else but him. Even in casual group settings, Sophie's attention to Alex remained consistent. She would subtly angle her body toward him, laugh slightly louder at his jokes, or pause before responding when he spoke. These small cues, repeated over time, signaled interest and attention. It was in the pattern, not the individual moments, that Alex began to see the truth clearly. Shared silence became another language between them, sitting together, walking side by side. Even moments when neither spoke were comfortable. These quiet moments created connection without force, showing that attraction doesn't always require words. When someone likes you, their presence alone becomes meaningful. Sophie also revealed personal thoughts gradually, layering trust over time. She shared memories, opinions, and experiences in increments that allowed Alex to see her world without overwhelming him. This slow unveiling is a natural way people test trust while forming emotional bonds. It demonstrated her desire to connect without rushing the process. Playful teasing became more frequent, too. Sophie would challenge him gently, make small jokes, and observe his responses. Each reaction informed her subtly about his feelings and comfort levels. When Alex responded positively, she relaxed further, leaned closer, and smiled more. This pattern repeated enough times to form a clear subconscious dialogue between them. Alex also noticed how her energy adapted to his. If he seemed happy, Sophie matched his joy, amplifying it naturally. If he appeared tired or stressed, she softened, showing empathy without being asked. Emotional mirroring is one of the strongest subconscious indicators of attraction. It creates harmony and comfort that cannot be faked consistently. Even the way she mentioned him to others revealed hidden interest. She would highlight his qualities without exaggeration, mention him casually in stories, or subtly support him when needed. Protectiveness and attention in social interactions are strong signals that someone values your presence emotionally. Alex realized that attraction often hides in repetition, not in grand gestures. All these small actions, glances, touches, attentiveness, teasing, shared silence, and protective instincts told a story without a single confession. Over months, the pattern became undeniable. Sophie's interest wasn't fleeting, it was persistent, consistent, and genuine. By now, Alex understood the key lesson. When someone likes you, they don't always say it. Their body, attention, and behavior communicate first. Every small movement, every subtle signal, every act of care adds up to a narrative of attraction. The truth is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice. As Alex spent more time observing Sophie, he began to notice the quiet ways she aligned her routines with his. It wasn't forced or deliberate, it was instinctive. She would arrive at the library just as he finished his studies, or take the same walking route without comment. These small coincidences, repeated over time, began to form a pattern he could no longer ignore. Psychology shows that attraction subtly guides behavior. The brain seeks proximity to people it values emotionally, often without conscious effort. He noticed the nuanced ways Sophie responded to social situations. In group conversations, she would tilt her body slightly toward him, her gestures and laughter matching his energy. When someone else made a joke or stole attention, she would subtly redirect it back toward him without seeming obvious. These small adjustments were instinctive protective behaviors, signs that she valued him emotionally and wanted to remain connected. Digital communication revealed another layer of her interest. Sophie's messages were thoughtful, paying attention to details from previous conversations. She would ask questions that showed curiosity, remember small facts, and engage him in ways that felt effortless. It wasn't just conversation, it was connection. Repeated attention over time in digital spaces is one of the clearest indicators of attraction in modern psychology. Alex became aware of micro-expressions that betrayed her emotions in fleeting moments. A brief smile, a momentary hesitation, or a subtle change in tone revealed feelings that words never expressed. These microsignals, almost imperceptible to others, communicated a depth of feeling that Alex could sense intuitively. He began learning to read these signs, understanding that genuine attraction often speaks in moments too brief for casual observation. Even in shared silence, Sophie's presence was revealing, sitting quietly together or walking side by side. She didn't fidget or seem distracted. Instead, there was comfort, a shared space that allowed connection without words. Psychology notes that comfort in silence signals emotional safety and genuine interest. Those moments strengthened Alex's understanding of her feelings even more than conversations could. Sophie also revealed her thoughts gradually, layering vulnerability over time. Personal stories, reflections, and small confessions emerged in increments, each carefully observed. She measured trust and reaction, creating an invisible bond through gradual disclosure. This methodical opening of oneself is a strong indicator of genuine interest. It reflects care, emotional investment, and subconscious attraction. Playful teasing became more frequent as well. Sophie would challenge him gently, make light jokes, and gauge his reactions. Each response offered feedback that shaped the subtle dance between them. Positive reactions encouraged more closeness, reflected in smiles, slight touches, and increased attention. These patterns created a rhythm of interaction rooted in attraction, consistent and ongoing. Alex also noticed her energy mirrored his emotional state. When he was excited, she matched his energy and amplified it. When he was stressed, she softened, showing care and empathy without being asked. Emotional mirroring is a powerful subconscious signal of attachment. It allows someone to align with your mood, fostering comfort, intimacy, and unspoken understanding. He observed subtle protective tendencies in social settings. Sophie would defend him lightly, highlight his strengths, and ensure he felt acknowledged. These behaviors were never exaggerated. They were instinctive signs of emotional alignment and value. Protective instincts like these often precede verbal acknowledgement of feelings. Alex began to realize that attraction is rarely dramatic. It doesn't arrive with sudden confessions or grand gestures. Instead, it reveals itself in repetition, glances, attention, presence, micro-adjustments, playful teasing, digital engagement, and consistent care. Each individual action may seem small, but together they formed a clear narrative one Sophie's feelings were telling without words. Over time, the patterns became undeniable. Sophie's consistency, attentiveness, and subtle adjustments all pointed to the same conclusion. She liked him. Her behaviors weren't random or situational, they were persistent, subconscious signals of genuine attraction. The truth was hidden in plain sight, waiting for Alex to notice. By now, Alex understood the key lesson about human psychology. Actions often reveal feelings before words do. Attraction speaks in gestures, attention, body language, and repeated care. It is subtle, persistent, and layered. Understanding these signals allowed him to recognize Sophie's feelings clearly, long before any verbal confession occurred.